the Grammys is the biggest music award. The album is a collaboration between South African flute player Wouter Kellerman and me. India does not have any scope for independent artists. Radio stations and television channels do not play anything other than film music. Piracy has become so rampant in India. Nobody even remembers when the last time they actually purchased music and bought music. Santosh's music is brilliant. Of course, Mr. A.R. Rahman's music, every single thing that he comes out with is absolutely brilliant and path-breaking. And I always want to break free, and I want to be independent, and I want to create music from the heart. It's a very exciting times for me, and the Grammys is the biggest music award that I can possibly imagine, and it always seemed like an unattainable dream. And now that I have it, it's just very, very exciting times, and lots of doors have opened, and I'm just really thrilled about it. The album is a collaboration between South African flute player Wouter Kellerman and me. And how it happened was that we both met 3 years back in Los Angeles, and we decided that we wanted to work with each other. And while we were discussing music, we realized that I had already composed a piece of music on the ideals of peace of Mahatma Gandhi. And he had already composed a piece of music on Nelson Mandela, his father of the nation, my father of the nation. And we also realized that Mahatma Gandhi spent the first half of his life in South Africa. Nelson Mandela was heavily inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. So there was a lot of cross-pollination between both the countries. And based on these ideals, we just started making music. We traveled around the world, traveled all 5 continents, worked with 120 musicians, composed, had fun, laughed, joked, and at the end of it, in 2 years, we had an album ready, Winds of Samsara. Childhood inspirations have always been there, lots of them, and one of them being Pandit Ravi Shankar, who's been a huge influence in my life. Not only because he made amazing music, but also because he was never afraid to experiment, never afraid to collaborate with as many musicians and different cultures around the world. One inspiration of mine in my childhood was Kitaro, the famous Japanese composer, and it was pretty amazing that I was nominated against him for the Grammys. And even when I met him, I was completely starstruck, and I was so happy to meet him. And then I won against him. So, it's of course a bittersweet feeling because I myself was actually supporting him, but then I won. So it's a very mixed feelings on that regard. I've always believed that music has to be an extension of yourself and an extension of your personalities and beliefs. And I express myself through Indian music because I've lived in India all my life and I'm an Indian. So the thing is that how I express myself is through Hindustani classical music and Indian melodies. So that always gets into my music. And no matter what kind of music I start off creating, there will always be a lot of Indianness in it. So I guess that's why Winds of Samsara and all my previous albums are heavily influenced by Hindustani classical music and by Indian music. Actually, I started off with no formal training, but then once I decided to make music my profession when I was in college, that is when actually I took on formal training. I studied Hindustani classical and I studied Western classical with some really good teachers. So I started off with no formal training, but then later on I realized that I've got a handicap. Like if you do not have formal training, always you feel handicapped especially when you're talking to great musicians and stuff like that. So that is when I decided that I need formal training and I took it up. Actually, what happened was that I was never a dentist. I've always been a musician. And in my 12th, when I decided that I wanted to do music as a career and I wanted to do music for the rest of my life, I told my parents this, and they were shocked. They wanted me to become the regular traditional careers of engineer, doctor, dentist, that kind of a thing. And so after a lot of crying, a lot of heartache, a lot of fights with my parents, we decided that we decided to reach a compromise, and the compromise was that I would finish off my degree in dental surgery, and after I get my degree, I could do whatever I wanted with my life. So that's what I did. I just finished off my degree, got the degree certificate, gave it to my father, and and then I became a musician for the rest of my life. I think the music scene is very good in India and it is very good in the West. It's just that India does not have any scope for independent artists in the sense that all music is very heavily tied to the film industry. Whether it is Bollywood or whether it is the Tamil film industry or whether it's Kannada film industry, it's very tied into the film industry. And radio stations and television channels do not play anything other than film music. So the thing is that, and even like when I talk to anybody, like a friend or whatever, and or I meet a new person and I tell them that I'm a composer, the first question that they ask me is that, which movie have you composed music for? And even when I go to radio stations and they give me the form for playing my music, the form always says that, like for playing the music, it says actor's name, director's name, actress's name. So then what does an independent artist fill into these forms? So the thing is that it's very, very based on, all music in India is based on scripts, it's based on what a hero says to a heroine, or it's based on, it's based on a story. It's not based on your own heart, and it's not based on the musician's own personality. So I strongly feel that this has to come out, the musician's own feelings has to come out through their music. And for that, an independent music industry is very, very important. No, I guess it's the overall scenario, in the sense that film music is very, very good quality. The music that's coming out is extremely good quality, especially the Tamil film industry is producing some fantastic quality. Like Santosh's music is brilliant. Of course, Mr. A.R. Rahman's music, every single thing that he comes out with is absolutely brilliant and path-breaking. But at the same time, as I mentioned, that the thing is that sometimes a musician should make music which is scripted from their own life, and talk about, like in the West you have an artist like Adele. Every time she breaks up with somebody, she writes a whole album on that. Every time she falls in love with somebody, she writes, and that's there with so many artists like Adele. There is John Mayer, there is Nora Jones. They write music from the heart. So that, according to me, is really, really important to do that. And the other problem with the independent music scene itself in India is that independent musicians make independent albums as a stepping stone to get into the film industry. So they only make it for that. So that's why they make their independent music, keeping in mind that film producers should like that music. So they make it very filmy. So that's another problem, that whether a music composer is making music for short films or they're making music for independent music. For albums and stuff like that, they are constantly thinking about that, my stepping stone is going to be getting into the film industry. So I think musicians, I would really hope that more and more musicians make music from the heart and continue spreading that music. Piracy is very, very little in other countries other than India. In India, the issue again is, according to me, in my humble opinion, it's with the film industry not caring much about piracy. Because see, piracy has become so rampant in India, where everybody's got a huge music collection, like 10 GB, 20 GB, 1 terabyte. But the thing is that nobody even remembers when the last time they actually purchased music and bought music. And the film industry does not care too much about piracy, because for the film industry, they want their songs to become popular and they want to sell movie tickets, because they're in the business of selling movie tickets. And so for them, CD sales and MP3 sales does not matter much. Whereas, and there's so much of film content out that audience will not want to buy anything other than that, because they've got so much of free content when it comes to movie music. So for an independent artist, they depend on CD sales and they depend on MP3 sales. And so when nobody's buying their music, they will not be able to survive. The thing about Kannada movies is that at that time I was already very successful in the West, and again, the same problem where, where anybody would ask me a question, what do you do? And I would say I'm a composer. Then they ask, which film have you composed music for? And it was very difficult for me to answer that question. And at that time, I met this great man, Mr. Ramesh Arvind. He's an amazing, amazing person. Very, very, he's sort of a mentor to me. Very, very close friend also. And I mean, in the sense that there is no words to describe how great that man is. And he recently directed Uttama Villain. And so I just wanted to work with him. And so I did 3 films with him. Those are the only 3 films that I did in Kannada. And I did in 2008, 2009, 2010. And I thoroughly enjoyed working with him. But the thing is that film industry is not for me, because I cannot be bound by a script. It's very difficult for me to make music bound by that. And I always want to break free, and I want to be independent, and I want to create music from the heart. Not in the near future for sure. But if a film director likes my music and picks up a CD of mine and says, I want music exactly like this, then I would be more than interested to do that, simply because as a musician, I want more and more people to listen to my music, and that would be a great opportunity for me. But then if somebody comes to me and tells me that, these are the last 10 greatest hits in the film industry, and check this out and try to make music like this, and I want one song like this, one song like this, one song like this, that would be impossible for me, because there are people who are very, very good at that, and I have full respect for them. But for me, I'm not at all good at that. That's something that I don't have the talent for. One is Mr. A.R. Rahman, obviously. I mean that because every single musician, every single composer, every single playback singer has been influenced by him. And if they say that they've not been influenced by them, they're just lying, because he's been such a huge force in the musical scene that in some way everybody has been inspired by him. So he would be my greatest inspiration. And of course, the late Pandit Ravi Shankar, huge inspiration simply because of the way he carried out his career and how he single-handedly made Hindustani classical music popular all over the world. And it's because of people like him that people like me exist. So it's because of him that that I'm able to sell my Indian music abroad. I mean, there are of course Mr. A.R. Rahman, Santosh. Then I love Yuvan Shankar Raja's music. That I've listened to his music in the past, and it's absolutely brilliant. So that's the kind of music that I love listening to. I listened to this soundtrack a couple of years back called Bale Pandya. It had an a cappella song that is only voices. So the Tamil film industry, I just love the music because everybody is trying to experiment so much, and so very very differing forms of music, and everybody is appreciating it. So not only are the music directors really good quality, but even the audience is of fantastic quality. It's very difficult to say because very early on in my career, I'm just 33 and I won the biggest music award in the world. So if I'd won it when I was 60, then I would have said this is my lifetime achievement award, and I can retire. But now it has energized me to start off my career all over again and to make more and more music. And the Grammy Award is almost like somebody has just pointed a finger at me and told me that you've been making music from the heart and you've been doing this kind of music all your life and you've stayed away from commercial music. So you've done the right thing. Carry on doing this. So this is what I'm going to carry on doing. Carry on making independent music. Carry on making albums, and hope that more and more people like my music.